Hey team, quick set of production notes before the video begins. First off, sorry that a lot of this will be stills and motion graphics. Unfortunately, episodes 1 and 8 of Hazbin's first season were heavily copyright claimed, which were also the episodes with 80% of Adam's screen time. Thanks, Amazon. Secondly, you might be noticing I'm looking a little more two-dimensional but thick today. As of this week, the very lovely Rupee Cafe finished the model for my 2.0 VTuber. While I still got a good 2 to 3 months out before my VTuber rigger, the equally lovely Susu Tandem can rig this model to be animated like my old one. I did think on if I really wanted to sit on this high quality model and especially Ruby's awesome emotion toggles for 3 months. Since end of the day, it is just the same guy, but more detailed and chunkier. So all this means I will be returning to being a PNG tuber for a bit. The pros outweighed the cons, so time to retire the old model for now and introduce y'all to the new and improved Phantom Skull. With that out of the way, on to the video. Religion as a concept is as old as the very stones and trees around us. For better or for worse, it's been a guiding practice for centuries and beyond. Used to teach people a better path, or abused to justify unspeakable acts of evil. For this pair of pious pricks, it's very much the latter. Adam, the not-so-angelic villain of Hazbin Hotel's first season, and Doma, the frosty upper two demon of Demon Slayer, are vastly different conmen of the cloth, but shockingly have a lot more in common than you'd think. Hey team, Phantom Skull, the super security VTuber here, and today we're looking at this angelic asshole and smiling cult leader to analyze their similar personalities and beliefs, and their ties to the uglier side of religious doctrine and those who misuse it. Not gonna lie, Charlie would have a handful trying to redeem this creeper. So time to get a lot of disclaimers out of the way, mostly for the Hazbin side of things. So first, spoilers ahead for Season 1 of Hazbin and some of the recent Season 2 episodes. And a lot of manga spoilers for Doma, since he basically takes center stage during the final saga of the series. So we'll be using a lot of manga stills, so this is your first and only warning to get the hell out if you're an anime only, since we're going all in. Also, due to how, divisive Hazbin Hotel is with some circles of folks, I do feel like we need to discuss a few things. First off, I get people who are Christian or Catholic may not sit well with the show portraying hell and demons as sympathetic. And in general, I feel haters are thinking way too hard on its concepts and lore on purpose to start arguments. Hazbin Hotel and its spin-off Hell of a Boss aren't intended to be a literal take on Christian beliefs. It's in many ways an urban fantasy using its mythology and not theology, similar to Greek mythology adaptations. Hazbin is more telling a fictional story that's more of a commentary on religious institutions and their abuses, and the societal problems of living in a rigid, unchanging, black and white state of morality. Show creator Vivian Medrano did not set out to make a show with a low-hanging fruit take of Christianity is bad. And to be clear, neither is my video today. Almost every scene in Heaven, particularly during Season 2, we see that the majority of Heaven's angels and souls, who are indicative of Christian believers, are shown to be well-meaning, wholesome, if a tad sheltered, lovable goofs who practice what they preach and do want to help others. It's just a very extremist, vocal, volatile minority of Adam and his exorcists who relish in abusing their faith for sadism and self-gain. But ultimately, the main crux of the strife between the realms of heaven and hell is if the angels are willing to confront that ugly, darker side of their system and do something about it. But that's as far as I'm gonna go into that, as this is ultimately a character analysis. So now with the nitty-gritty sorted, let's introduce our dogmatic duo. Adam, the first man, General of Heaven's Army, and...
Call me Dickmaster.
Ugh. Dickmaster is the central threat in Hazbin Hotel's first season. Similar to his biblical counterpart, he was the first human male made by God. Alongside his first wife Lilith, were made to rule the Garden of Eden. But Lilith didn't vibe with Adam's controlling and arrogant nature at all, and soon eloped with the fallen angel Lucifer. Both cast down to hell after offering the apple of knowledge to Adam's second wife, Eve. Man, imagine getting c***ed by the same guy twice. Centuries later, after his passing, he gets a free ticket to heaven and becomes a powerful archangel and leader of heaven's army, specifically his crew of executioners, a secret elite force that's sent once a year to curb hell's overpopulation problem by slaughtering sinners left and right. When Lucifer's Optimus daughter, Charlie Morningstar, proposes a plan to rehabilitate sinners at her hotel to try and redeem them so they can get into heaven to resolve the overpopulation problem without bloodshed, Adam coldly refuses and gleefully tells her that they're upping the yearly slaughter to every 6 months, and basically tells her to kiss his ass as far as her rehabilitation plan. Charlie's now on a short time clock to both prove her case that redemption is possible to heaven, and prepare them for another attack, as Adam ultimately doesn't plan to listen one way or the other, eagerly awaiting the next extermination day. Doma was a young child raised in a cult formed by his parents known as the Eternal Paradise Faith. Due to his unique hair and eye color, his con artist parents propped him up as a holy figure who could commune with the gods to their gullible followers. Even at a young age, he knew this was a crock, and pitied these grown adults looking to a child for guidance, but ultimately kept up the act, growing a twisted form of ideals and sense of duty to guide the stupid masses to a happier end. This twisted belief would become even more depraved after he became a demon, feasting on women and his followers for centuries while rising to become Muzan's second strongest demon enforcer. Now a carefree psychopath with cryokinetic magic, this deranged man of faith now seeks to bring humans to a happier form of existence. In his stomach. Now, admittedly, I might have had other reasons for picking a Demon Slayer character to analyze alongside Adam, but truth be told, I did want to strive to find a relevant character who wasn't specifically criticizing Christian-based belief systems like Adam, because that is a depressingly long list. And again, the point of this video isn't to be Christianity bad commentary. And surprisingly, if you look under the hood, these two have a lot more in common than at first glance, though one is definitely more subtle about it than the other, such as how both are equally full of shit when it comes to the respective faiths. Adam is intended to be an allegorical character for a modern, Christian in heavy air quotes type of person. Someone who abuses their faith's most shallow interpretations to bully and discriminate against others, and to indulge in a demented sense of moral and societal superiority over their faith despite not actually following any of its tenets beyond the ones that are convenient to them. He's almost every negative stereotype of Christians rolled into one massive dick. He's a bigot with a major superiority complex over his status as a saved individual compared to the losers in hell, and abuses his power and prestige that comes with being on the side of the winners to step on others he deems not worthy of mercy. And he does all this while not actually practicing any of the doctrines of his own faith, beyond putting on airs to appease his bosses. Doma, on the other hand, was a staunch nihilistic atheist. He didn't believe in gods, Buddhas, heaven, or hell. He didn't believe in concepts like an afterlife, and that after death there was nothing, and that people who could not accept something so simple were naive and dumb. Even as a child, he was aware enough to believe in these concepts, and that he found all of these grown adults praying to him, a literal child, to help resolve their problems and strife to be utterly pitiful. He kept up the act as he did find a twisted duty in guiding these stupid adults as someone more enlightened. As a demon, he'd maintained this belief, but with it now twisting to him helping them find peace from their inability to accept, to him mind you, the meaningless suffering of the universe by devouring them and making them a part of his own divine body. From his point of view, there was no afterlife, so being a part of his immortal body was the closest thing they would ever get to an afterlife. That's another thing the pair share. a grossly massive amount of arrogance and feelings of self-importance. Both consider themselves divine beings, or winners as Adam would put it. Their so-called more important statuses meant that they were better than everyone else, and have a duty to fulfill. But for both, it was just a front to justify their own vile behaviors. Doma hides a lot of his by fake charisma that most can see right through. He talks down to everyone around him, even his fellow demons, while making it sound like he's their friend or a sympathetic party to those who come to confront him, giving the many revenge-seeking demon slayers that faced him a condescending dose of fake pity. Or he comments on how much he loves women. By that I mean that he loves to eat them almost exclusively. He shows a very demeaning and fake-as-hell attitude around them and their agency. He likes to act like he has pity and benevolence for the misguided souls who face him, but most can see it for the mockery that it is. Adam doesn't even bother with hiding it. He's openly sexist, greedy, sadistic, and acts as unangelic as possible, but treats anything he does as in the right because he was the first man. He was a born winner who got a free ticket to heaven, which, as we find out, not even the denizens of heaven know the exact qualifications of what designates someone a winner or a sinner, since Adam almost embodies every major sin when we meet him. In his eyes, anything he does is justified because he's on the right side of the universe. Both him and Doma suffer heavily from egos and narcissism, but filter them in different ways ultimately. That narcissism also feeds into another quality the two share in spades, a lack of empathy that can be seen as a gaping, endless abyss. Both Adam and Doma share a sheer lack of care for others beyond themselves to varying degrees. Outside of his all-female exorcists, who he considers both his property as their general, and potential bedmates, and not much else, Adam doesn't care about anyone but himself and his own desires. Hell, season 2 would reveal he doesn't even like his own son Abel. When Charlie pleads her case about trying to redeem sinners over killing them, Adam doesn't even try to entertain the thought. His villain song, Hell is Forever, has him talking, more so singing down to the princes of hell, giving a condescending black and white lesson on morality and how nobody can change their fates. In between that, he also flat out admits that the exterminations are his entertainment, and that the whole reason he's moving up the deadline to every 6 months is simply because he can't wait a whole year anymore for his fun. He couldn't even be bothered to put on an act of doing this as a solemn duty, just rubbing it into the Princess of the Losers how powerless she actually was, and how he won't stop the exterminations because it would take his favorite pastime away. Adam relishes in killing sinners and demons, and treats anything that's a threat to his status quo as an annoyance that needs to be stamped out. When Charlie takes her redemption plan to heaven directly, who are mostly ignorant to the yearly execution save for the head seraphim Sarah, Adam pulls out all the stops to tank her case, bullshitting supposed requirements to get into heaven that he only guesses on, and ironically would be all the ones redeemed Serpentius would do, and blackmails Charlie's girlfriend Vaggie, who's revealed to have been one of his executioners until she was abandoned in hell for going soft, to help sink it with the threat of outing her identity, only to do it anyways to twist the knife deeper with Charlie when he drops the act. When he lets slip about the exterminations to the shocked angels, he plays it off since he still considers himself ultimately in the right no matter what, and that Sarah will still permit him to ensure hell doesn't pose a threat to heaven, meaning he gets off scot-free and gets to relish in causing Charlie to suffer in her failure, and planning to attack her hotel first thing. Adam, for all his piousness and moralism, was just a sadistic frat bro bully who hid behind his belief system to absolve him of all responsibility and consequences for his own actions. Doma's lack of empathy comes in the form of a literal inability to empathize with others. He's a clinical textbook case of a psychopath, someone who is utterly incapable of experiencing proper emotions, nor understanding or empathizing with others' feelings, and hides it with an empty veneer of charm and charisma. Even before becoming a demon, he showed a disturbing lack of humanity. When his mother killed his father for using their cult to sleep with other women, and then Alt-F4'd herself in despair, the only singular thought in his head was annoyance at them getting their blood all over the room. Under his carefree persona, he's a calculating man with an extremely keen intellect. But despite that, he quite literally cannot understand the emotions of others, which leaves him puzzled at the long line of demon slayers who have beef with him, as we see in the Infinity Castle arc. When confronted by the insect Hashira Shinobu, who sought revenge for her sister Kana, the only emotion Doma could muster is disappointment in the fact that the sun rising forced him to flee before eating her, but now delighted to eat her pretty sister. During this tragically one-sided battle, Doma gives the girl mocking praise and pity for her perseverance in spite of her inability to properly behead him. For all his mockery, he was observant enough to pick up on the fact that Shinobu was shorter than most demon slayers and lacked the raw strength, which is why she focused on anti-demon poisons with her fighting style. When he finally defeats her and begins absorbing her through his body, he can give nothing but empty praise and crocodile tears of pity for her futile effort. While the insect Hashira would get the last laugh, as we'll discuss in a bit, it really does show just how devoid of true emotions Doma was. The only person Doma gave any, if at all, kindness to was Inosuke's mom, and that was just for her beauty and singing ability, who he intended to keep as a pet more or less until she died of old age. But when she discovered his true demonic side, she tried to flee with baby Inosuke, at which point he killed her without a hint of regret. To say Inosuke was ready to eviscerate him both for killing Shinobu and the mother he never knew would be an understatement. Funnily enough, that's another thing these vicious villains have in common: the fact almost every single character in the respective shows hate their absolute guts. Outside of his main gal Lute, who is psychotically devoted to him, and the executioners, nobody really likes Adam. Charlie and the denizens of hell have good reason to hate him for his sadistic love of slaughtering them, and refusing to try a peaceful solution to the overpopulation problem. When we visit heaven, it becomes apparent not even the holy rollers care for him that much. The show's promotional playbill says Adam was voted heaven's biggest dick, which he of course took literally. Many seem put off by his crude and callous attitude, and even Sarah seemingly just tolerates him, because she considers the exterminations unnecessary evil to protect heaven from hell's much larger numbers. It's telling when Adam bites it at the end of Season 1. Season 2 has most of heaven more concerned about their necessary evil being gone and not the man himself. Only Lute, and to a much lesser extent his son Abel, even bother mourning him. With Doma, it's even worse. Sure, the members of his cult are devoted to him, right up until they find out he's a demon and has been eating his followers, and are about to join them in 10 seconds. But not even his fellow demons like him all that much. Granted, there isn't much camaraderie amongst demons in general, given their bloodthirsty dog-eat-dog and self-serving society that only revolves around whatever the hell Muzan wants today. But even then, it's commented that Doma unnerves many of his own demon kind. Upper 5 Gyoko is shown to be uncomfortable around him, but tries to be amicable. Upper 3 Akaza absolutely loathes him, both for his carefree attitude and for quickly surpassing him in spite of his own more serious martial artist nature. And their boss Muzan just straight up hates him. I mean, granted, Muzan hates everyone that isn't him, but he at the very least shows mild respect and civility with demons that are powerful and useful to him. He considers his upper 1 Kokushibo a partner, which is the closest thing to endearment with the self-proclaimed king of demons. But he very candidly only tolerates Doma, if only because he's the second strongest demon and is irreplaceable. But even then, he trusts upper 1 and 3 with more missions than 2, who's kinda just there because he can't really get rid of him. Mainly it's Doma's inability to feel or express emotions. Muzan wants his demons to fear and respect him, but Doma's psychopathic nature just leaves him loyal, but too carefree for his tastes, finding him disgustingly too laid back for one of his elites. And his entire arc during the Infinity Castle is confronting multiple demon slayers who hated him with the intensity of 1,000 suns, even by regular demon slayer standards. Both of these guys are despised by almost everyone around them. There's not much to say about their powers, as they don't tie that much into their characters. Doma's icy blood demon art you can stretch is narratively tied to his lack of emotions, but it mostly just falls into the realm of flashy final arc villain powers. As for Adam, he's just a really powerful archangel. They don't explore it much beyond him having massive holy-based energy powers. It mostly ties back to his cocky, privileged frat bro characterization, as while he's capable of devastating destruction, clearly lacks any real combat skill or tactics, since he spent centuries unchallenged in the cosmic food chain, up until the denizens of hell discover that the executioners could be injured by their own angelic steel. He spends the entire fight spamming his holy beams like a D&D cleric tossing turn undead around. When he faces fan favorite Alistair, the hotel's trump card, the radio demon nimbly keeps Adam on the back foot until he simply brute strengths his way into a W and forcing him to retreat. Then Lucifer finally steps into the fray and Charlie locks in for a bit to show just how much of a big fish in a small pond Adam is when they thrash him into submission, which ultimately could have been avoided, as we'll discuss in the final segment. With all these similarities, it's only appropriate that they also share similar bitter ends brought on by their own arrogance and inability to understand others or their feelings. Doma's laid-back arrogance and love of toying with others would ultimately lead to his defeat, because he didn't just take out Inosuke and Kanao quickly, and wanting to relish in their mutual fury and despair at the people the upper two demon had taken from them. He allowed Shinobu's surprise tool she saved for later to initiate her final fuck you to the pretty-faced demon. Shinobu understood there was a high chance she couldn't behead Doma, and that he'd likely be able to solo her poisons. So she concocted a last-ditch move knowing that Doma has a penchant for eating women whole. She had spent a year ingesting wisteria, which is highly poisonous to demons, and with the amount flowing through her bloodstream, she was basically a walking bait trap. Due to Doma's carelessness and inability to comprehend the emotions of others, he allowed the poison to take hold that would cause him to decompose and weaken him enough to give the young pair of slayers the opening they need to lop his head off finally. As he slowly descended into the very real hell that he was realizing he was being sent to, Shinobu got to have one final moment of schadenfreude knowing both herself and her sister had been avenged, and got to coldly send the deranged demon to his eternal punishment after rebuking his insane love confession. Truly a fitting end for such a loveless loser. As for Adam, his arrogance and unwillingness to show compassion and empathy for others would be his own undoing. His centuries of acting like the top dog and lording his privilege over the denizens of hell would come back to bite him in many ways. Due to his complacency and inability to believe that the losers of hell could ever face them in a fair fight, both he and his executioners are less of skilled fighters and more bloodthirsty maniacs who put all their skill points into attack and lacked any real strategy. So they end up getting blindsided when the Hazbin crew use their weakness to angelic steel alongside their much more diverse and varied fighting styles to slaughter his army. And also, ultimately, his own spite and sadistic nature dealt the biggest blow. See, the deal between heaven and hell was that Adam and his gals would only come down to cold the overpopulated sinners, and not the natural hellborn like Charlie who were exempt. Now, given how the design Venn diagram between sinners and demons is sometimes a wonky circle, I do question how they could tell the difference, or if they bothered to. But Adam cruelly choosing to target the hotel during the next extermination out of spite voided the agreement. allowing the much more powerful Lucifer to intervene. Between being humiliated by the fallen angel and his daughter, and seeing his unstoppable army routed, Adam has a full-blown meltdown, not wanting to accept he lost to a bunch of losers. His tunnel visioning tantrum giving Nifty the opening to backstab the Angelic asshole, ending his immortal life of frat bro dickery. While Season 2 leaves more to explore with Adam, with Lute's psychotic hallucinations of him and the mysteries around what sort of deal he and Lilith made that let her stay in heaven, his story more or less ends with him dying in an appropriately pathetic manner, and done in by one of the minor characters of the cast to boot. What a way to go for the first man. Look, Adam isn't that complex of a character, and he didn't need to be. He was a central threat, an intentional one-dimensional bully who was the face of everything wrong with self-righteous narcissism and religious-flavored egocentrism. He was in many ways a classic Disney villain who took a left turn into an Adult Swim cartoon, and that's fine. He was a love-to-hate scumbag who came, performed the role he needed to perform, and didn't overstay his welcome. The same can be said about Doma. While he has a bit more depth than Adam, it's not that much compared to the other Demon Slayer villains. And none of it takes away from how vile of a person he was even by demon standards. It doesn't help that, like a lot of the higher ranked Upper Moons, he's squeezed into the final arc of the series. But for what little time he's present, he also does his role as a disturbing final boss for our Flower and Beast style Demon Slayers. Both of these holy rollers were great modern examples of misusing faith and authority to their own ends. Sure, there's better, more classic options out there, but for this generation, these two both found a decent balance of being fun characters to see the heroes confront, without forgetting to make sure we hate them. Like I said at the beginning, faith and religion aren't inherently bad things, and in the right hands are beautiful forms of expression and community that, when done right, can bring everyone together in love and unity. Let's just do a better job of getting the mic back from the Adams and Domas out there, please. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for checking out my video. If you liked it, please consider leaving a like and a comment. It really helps the channel with discoverability and algorithm stuff. What did you think of Adam and Doma? Is there a similar character you feel is a better example than I used? I'd love to hear about it below. Be sure to subscribe for more Super Security VTuber content and video essays. Did you know that I stream on the Purple site and here now? Be sure to come check out my GTA 5 RP streams and other games. I'm gonna be starting a dispatch stream soon, so hopefully I'll see you all there. Thank you all again, and I'll catch you in the next video.